Hello, welcome to Tsukii-Sensei's Encounters. I'm your host, Tsukii-Sensei, project coordinator and educational facilitator of Project 0 to 1. Today in the show, I have my guest here, Bflattened / Samuel Matchett. Welcome to the show, Sammy.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, nice. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was streaming to a team account for about 2 years before I actually got on my own, and I started streaming to my own channel that I made, Bflattened. I've been doing that for approximately 1 month now. Gladly, in my first week, I got the email that I'm now a Twitch affiliate, which means that I sort of have a partnership with Twitch in a sense, not the partner program, but sort of like a stepping stone and leads to get into that point.
So it sounds like your Twitch stream is hitting it. It's growing, it's blowing up.
It's incredible, it's absolutely incredible. As I call them, my Bflattened band, people that jump in and support and just are absolutely the most amazing people. I'm surrounded with a really great bunch.
Nice. What kind of games do you play in your stream?
Oh boy, so the games that I play, I like a challenge. I really do. Games that don't point you in the direction that you're needing to go, games that don't give you tutorials, games that are just one difficulty setting. And that really speaks out when I say Dark Souls, because that's pretty much the entirety of Dark Souls. There's no difficulty, there's no tutorial, it's just dead in there, here's a weapon, and prepare to die a lot. Cuphead is another big one. It's just, they have 2 difficulties, but they have no real tutorial. It's just get in there and hope you're decent at it.
Hope you're decent in platform games. Alright, so we're going to get into the meat of the video, as I like to call it. We're going to be talking more about mental health and wellness and how it's relevant to Sammy here as a Twitch streamer. So Sammy, when you think about mental health, what does that mean to you? Mental health and wellness.
Mental health and wellness, it's honestly been a huge journey for me. It comes in waves, honestly. Sometimes it can be one stable feeling, sometimes it can come in waves. And for me personally, it's definitely been a wave journey. Sometimes it's up here, sometimes it's down, and it flip-flops. And it's been doing that now for about a decade, at least to me personally. And honestly, when it really hits, it's not the greatest feeling at all. It really isn't. I'd say me 3 years ago and me now is a complete 180.
Would you like to talk more about that?
I would say, if I wanted to make it quick, I would say it started about 10 years ago. I don't want to go completely dark and to throw this in there, but
no, and you don't have to.
I'm going to try and make the long story short by saying that when I was in school, I was about 12 years old. Scenario happened. I was on the receiving end of quite some physical and verbal abuse. It wasn't the greatest. Eventually, it ended up where I actually got stabbed. I did. It was not fun, and I believe that's where my journey started. It started about 10 years ago.
It started about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
What was involved in that journey there, Sammy?
A lot of ups and downs, but it really was at down point. Starting from that day for the first little while, it was a lot of confused, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of emotions that went into it. A lot of questioning.
Can you give me some examples of what this looks like?
It would be really hard to like actually picture and to visualize by just words, but there was a lot of back-end care that went into it. I'm glad that I was actually able to get into that, because if it wasn't, there would be things that wouldn't be sorted out properly, especially as a kid. There's a lot of developmental stuff when you're just getting, say, out of elementary into high school, that sort of thing. There's a lot of developmental periods that go on during that time, and if it wasn't sorted out, then who knows what the mold would have been made into.
Now, you mentioned that there are some high points in your journey. Can you talk more about that?
I would say high points started last year. Like I said, if anybody has known me from the last couple of years to now, and I still get it even today, it's a complete 180. I started to reshape myself sort of in a way because I didn't want to continue the way that I was going on. It didn't seem like there was light at the end of the tunnel at all for it. And by 180, it really helped to purge negativity. And I'll always say that every single time. Purging negativity was the biggest one. But you really have to get in depth of what negativity is, because sometimes there are positives to negativity. Like, for my biggest example of that was the job that I was working. The positives of a job: you're employed, you're making money, you're happy about that, you're going off on your own, you're doing your own thing, you're paying your bills, you're paying for stuff that you want. That's positive. But the negative side to it is what really goes on, what you're actually taking through it. I was at an overnight job, and that really took a physical toll on me.
Imagine.
It was an overnight labor job. I was there for about a year and a half. During the ends of it, I actually tore my wrist completely out. And it was a useless ligament. I just couldn't use it. Unfortunately, coworkers didn't take that too well because I thought I was a useless person on the team. They were making fun of me about it. There's the negatives for it. Sure, I was making money, and I was happy with making money and paying my own stuff, doing my own thing, being my own person. But on the flip side, it wasn't really worth it. So I changed that. I found a new job now. I completely cut that out, that part of the negativity. Another example is people you surround yourself with. Sometimes having friends is awesome.
Oh yes.
But if you take the same example that I just used, sometimes there's good and bad with everybody. If there's a negative person, whether if it's towards you or themselves, they can actually bring you down.
They can.
Yeah. But purging negativity, me personally, really, really changed me.
What do you think are some of the barriers, however, when people are using avenues like Twitch streaming and cosplay? What are some of the barriers that people encounter, do you think, that will prevent them from growing like you did in your journey?
I would say, and the word is going to sound really bad at first, but I'm going to say and explain what I mean by it. But procrastination in a way. Saying that you're going to do something, planning out how you're going to do something, and trying to proceed forward on it, and then just backing out of everything completely last minute and just hiding again. I believe that is a huge barrier. you have the mindset that you want to go forth onto it, but then you realize there might be things that pop up. What if it doesn't work? What if this pops up? What if?
So a lot of
and then
like,
you just jump back.
issues, yes.
Yeah, exactly, and then you jump back into that shell. It's so close, but then that slight procrastination comes back to you, and you go back into something, what I like to call where you're in your comfort zone again. Trying to break out of a comfort zone is trying to like break a habit. It takes a lot of effort, but breaking a comfort zone is very, very difficult.
So when we are talking about breaking out of your comfort zone and procrastination as barriers in people's journeys, then when they are engaging in fandom works and fandom creations like Twitch streaming and cosplays, what's your advice to them?
My advice, honestly, it sounds silly and it sounds cheesy, just go for it. Just go for it. Honestly, every single time, I am so close to hitting the start stream button, and this could be different for other people, just before you put on your costume, just before you do this. But for me, just before I hit start streaming, I get really, really nervous because I'm like, oh snap, I'm about 30 seconds away from going live. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? I'm nervous, but the thing that I do, close my eyes, press the A button, and oh, I'm live. I'm live. I actually have to do this. It's happening.
You had to go forth.
I push myself. It's hard. It's really hard to push yourself, but the results were really, really worth it.
And it takes lots of strength, and you get lots of strength when you push forward and just do it, right?
Yeah, it's cheesy. It's very
No, not particularly cheesy, but
on the receiving end, it might seem like it's just as simple as that, and I get that. It's hard to receive that, but once you actually are in that position, it's a complete different scenario.
So, what is the advice you have to give for anyone who's going through journeys like yours? For people who are going through their own journey in the fandoms?
Specifically fandoms. When I started out 6 years ago, I was completely alone. A ticket was bought for me, and it was just have fun, enjoy the con. But as we all know, if you've ever been to a convention, if you blink for more than a second and then you turn to your friend, all of a sudden your friend is just gone, just disappearing in the thousands and thousands of people. And I only had one person at that time, then I was alone. So the biggest one that really helped me was actually posting in the Icon Facebook group. And that's when I bumped into a mutual friend that I've had for a long time now. You guys may know him, his name is John. And he really showed me how to approach people, how to make friends and such. I'm not saying go out and find your John, but people are very, very accepting within cosplay and fandom communities, especially at conventions, say Icon, C4. People are very, very accepting, I've noticed, and it's really nice because I'm pretty sure at some point a lot of people have been in that same scenario.
And what do you have to say for anyone out there who is struggling and who is going through that journey?
Who's going through that journey?
Yes.
I say reach out. It's hard to find that person to reach out to because it might be just weird to bring up. The person may not be very receptive, might not be very helpful, but reaching out to anybody. It's hard. I know it's hard.
Yes.
But talking about it, just talking it out loud rather than in your own head, say on a piece of paper or something, that's I don't find that as helpful. I find actually physically sitting down with a person and talking to them one-on-one, either in person, messenger, that sort of thing. I found that very helpful. finding that specific person, that's hard. It's also very hard. I'm going to be saying that I am willing, if anybody is out there that wants to reach out, I will personally sit down and talk with you. If you wish, I will be that person. I've been on the journey. I feel like I'm on a good step. It's back and forth, but I feel like I'm on a very positive note. If anybody would like help, I will be here.
Thank you very much. You give out a really strong message for many people out there. I know it's really hard for people to reach out, but that is a really strong message. Thank you for being on my show, Sammy.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
So tune in next month as I will be interviewing the Barony of Wildguard. It's going to be a LARPing group based out of Assembly Park, Winnipeg, and it's going to be tons of fun. So see you guys then.
Bflattened out.